Okay. All right. Now I'll click share screen. So I'm going to click that one. Yes. All right. This is a good place to start. Let's see. Oh. Okay. Now, what I'm going to start with is Science Fiction Fandom and the fandom of various types of fantasy and small writers. In other words, writers who wrote fanish type literature. Back in the late 30s, like I said before, after the 20s and the period which started an explosion during which was called the Golden Age in the early 30s of science fiction. It was also, as we came out of the Depression, it was a golden age of experimentation, of science. It was a golden age of writing, of coming up with all kinds of new ideas. And there was a group, mostly back east, because that's where the publishers were. And this group was a group of people who liked writing, just like our club, as manuscripters do. And they were also very much into writing fantasy and writing science fiction. Also, they were a very multicultural, multi-ethnic, group, which included a lot of women writers, as well as a lot of very new young writers. And the science fiction group decided to get together and start their own little society. They had a thing called the Science Fiction League. And the Science Fiction League, which was mostly back east at the time, during a world, at Coney Island, during a world convention, a world fair, they decided to have their first Worldcon. Now, it wasn't the first Worldcon. Before that, there had been one in England, but this was the first one in the United States. And in this picture, you'll see a bunch of early fans, science fiction and fantasy fans, who were visiting Coney Island and talking about their striving to write in their field. And among these, you'll see a picture of Ray Bradbury sitting in the rumble seat on the far right in the back. And he joined people like Ross Laughlin and others who were very famous writers at their time. Now I have to no, close that. Oh, now I have to start screen sharing again. Okay. Now, okay. Now, I'm going to go on and show you a bunch of pictures, and they're not in any particular order, so I'm going to remark on them. A lot of you are probably familiar with a fellow named Forey Ackerman. Forey Ackerman was a collector mostly of science fiction and fantasy. And I'm going to blow this picture up to, there he is. This is him at the Science Fantasy Society, which was the very first Science Fantasy Society to start back in the early 30s in Los Angeles. And, oh, okay, I'll get back to that in a minute. It included such people as Ray Bradbury, of course. This was a group of Los Angeles Science Fantasy Society people in a meeting at various places. Some of their first meetings were actually at members' homes. But then they eventually were able to find locations where they can have regular meetings. This was one of them. And that's fully accurate in the middle. And this was Ray Bradbury, who sold newspapers on the streets in LA in the 30s to pay for his library of books and to help pay for all the various things that he needed to pay for back then. He sold newspapers on the street. He hadn't become a writer yet. He was just becoming a fan and starting to write. This was him selling papers. That's an actual photograph of Ray Bradbury selling papers in LA. Oh, by your name, you'll notice the thing up here says fountain service. Back then, they had things called ice cream parlors and ice cream and soda fountains inside of drugstores and other kinds of stores. Oh, two people have entered the waiting room, and I have to, let's see, what's on? I have to let them join. Participants. Admit all. Okay. So I'll fix that. Okay, now this is Ray Bradbury at his home. These are 3 of his 4 daughters, and he's doing magic tricks for them. He was a big fan of magic and would entertain his daughters not only with reading to them, as you can see by the collection of books they had and toys, but by doing magic tricks. Here's an early Ray Bradbury, probably taken in Waukegan, Minnesota. Well, I think it was Minnesota, wasn't it? Waukegan, where he grew up before he moved out here. Here's him with one of his daughters. And, okay. Now, here's where it gets really important to us. One of the places that the science fiction group liked to meet was Clifton's Cafeteria in Los Angeles, which, by the way, is still open. They've redone it, and Clifton's is now open again within the rules of COVID rules, but this was where they gathered.
Excuse me, Van, I'm sorry, can you enlarge the photos?
That's as big as I could get.
All we see is the thumbnails.
Oh, you should see more than that. I'm sharing the screen.
All we see is the thumbnail.
No, you should see the screen shared. You should see the screen. Let's see, I'll go to full screen.
Yeah, we're only seeing the icons, Van. And
you're not seeing the full screen?
And and we can see your list of files on the left-hand side.
Really?
Yeah.
There's something fishy about that.
It might be like stuck on a previous screen.
If you double click on the picture, will it enlarge it for us?
No, it just
Okay.
goes back to the list of files.
No, all we're seeing is the page that incorporates all the thumbnail pictures.
Yeah. Let's see if I can minimize this and minimize this and go back to this. Now what are you seeing? Is it okay yet?
We're still just seeing the icons. But
Mm,
why don't, that's okay, because hopefully most of us can see them, and if you can just click on them to know where we are and what you're talking about.
no, but I want you to see the full screen.
It's not showing up.
Usually, like, it'll give you a choice of what you want to share. So there should be a.
Well,
Like a-
that's what
like
I'm
a
trying
menu.
to. That okay. Advanced sharing options. No, it doesn't give me any other option.
Well, actually, you know what? We need to just go on. Go ahead. We'll try to follow on this page. Thanks, Van.
Okay. I'm going to click on the screen and see if it does that. Did that work?
Yeah. Yay.
Okay. This is, I'll go back to the other pictures. There's Ray selling papers, and the Losters Clubhouse back then, and for Ackerman. Okay, now I'll go forward again. Now, Clifton's was a hangout for them. One of the rules that Clifton's had, when you pay what you could afford, and some people ate for free. And so, besides also having very good food during this post Depression era, it was a very attractive place in Los Angeles to go eat. And they had rooms upstairs where various groups, without paying any fees, could have meetings. So they went to a place called the Brown Room. Now, oh, there's Bradbury with his wife in his house. That's his Forey Ackerman, Harry,
Ray Harryhausen.
yeah, Ray Harryhausen, Ray Bradbury, and Julia Schwartz. No, I think it's Julia Schwartz.
I think so.
At some kind of meeting ahead at a clubhouse later, more recently. Here's Ray Harryhausen, Ray Bradbury, and Forey Ackerman. And that might be, what's his name behind him? I'm terrible with names. Oh, here they are again. Harryhausen, Ackerman, and Bradbury, and a meeting. It looks like a restaurant. And there's a stone, and Bradbury's gravestone. Okay. Now here's where I get into our history. Unconnected with the stories you may have heard is the Southwest Manuscripters did not really start meeting in 1949. They started in 1950. The reason they say that is because this woman, whose name is Ramoncita O'Connor, known as Mona O'Connor for short, she used to visit the various writers groups around LA and the women's clubs. the women's clubs were a place where a lot of women were starting to, because some of them were teachers and librarians, they were starting to form writers groups. And Ramoncita O'Connor used to attend the Los Angeles Manuscripters. The Los Angeles Manuscriptors, which was a spinoff of what I believe, I'm still doing research, was the United States National Manuscripters, which was a spinoff of the National Writers Guild. So we are not a daughter, well, we're a granddaughter of the Writers Guild and a daughter of the Los Angeles Manuscripters. Ramoncita O'Connor liked what she saw, but she lived in the South May. So she said, why don't we have a local writers group in the South May? So the very next year after she said that, in 1950, she started with the first meeting of the Southwest Manuscripters in Hermosa Beach. Now, this is going back to the Los Angeles Science Fantasy Society. Here it shows a picture when they had more than 100 members. And if you look at this picture very carefully, you can recognize some of these people, such as Walter Doherty. It's hard to read these names. Robert Heinlein, Bill Crawford, Ray Harryhausen. Let's see if I can pick them out. A lot of early members. Robert Anson Heinlein, Dorothy, Elmer Smith, Jack Williamson of all people, Ray Douglas Bradbury. Let's see if I can pick him out. That may be him right there. 40 excellence somewhere and Edward Hamilton, who I believe was a British writer, and some other people who I don't know who they were, but they were fans and writers at the time. Not all fans were writers, but a great many of them wanted to be. This is another meeting of the same group. I believe that's Bradbury on the left, next to the woman. And I'm not sure I can pick anybody else out. Here's another group. That's 40 excellent in the middle, bottom row. I don't offhand recognize any of the others. There are places online where you can actually see these pictures with captions. I'll get into that later. Now, Ramoncita O'Connor, our founder, our Southwest Manuscripters founder, was also a writer. She wrote little short stories, which published in local newspaper, and she wrote poetry. This is one of her little stories. I won't read it to you. This was one of her poems, That Quiet Stars Hang Low. And this was a death announcement. You know what I mean. Anyway, this was a announcement of her death on January 2nd, and in 1973. And it tells that she lived in Colorado and in Los Angeles in the South Bay. And she was a founding member of Southwest Manuscripters and a member of the Women's Press Club and the Chaparral Poets. Now, the Chaparral Poets were another local group, writers group, along with the San Pedro Writers Guild, which also started back in the 30s. And this is something I'll be showing and telling about more later on. These were people who connected us with other groups and other writers, including Dana School, which we send a representative to every year until COVID, of course. Now, this is an announcement of the very first manuscriptors writing. Now, I'll be putting links and examples of all of these files and all of these places online on a website eventually. We'll have an expanded web page with all these links to all this information. So you'll be able to look it up, read it for yourself, watch videos for yourself, etc., etc. But this was the very first meeting, and Kay Snow acted as president, and Mona O'Connor actually acted as program chairman. So that's the Los Angeles Science Fantasy Society sign. I forget which location this was. They had it at several different locations. This may have been the one at Freehofer Hall. They had several different locations. They were moving around from time to time. Right now, they do not have a location. If anybody out there is fabulously wealthy, I recommend them helping the Los Angeles Science Fantasy Society by donating a place for them to have meetings. This is Forty Ackerman and some person named Sophia, I don't know her, and Ray Bradbury on the streets, probably in Venice, which is where Ray Bradbury first lived when he came here. And there's Ray and his wife. They got married in 1947. They eventually had 4 children, all girls. Good for you, Ray. This was another meeting of the club. I think I repeated that one. Oh, this is Ray when he first met Margaret McClure. They went dating before they were married, and they went to, who knows, maybe Los Angeles or maybe Santa Monica Pier or something, who knows, and took a picture at one of the many places where you can go to a photo booth. I think it's a charming picture. That's Ray when he was a brat, a nasty little kid with an attitude, which he kept all his life. There's Ray in the school yearbook. There's Ray, I think in Waukegan. Oh, there's Ray with George, you know who I mean, when he was a kid and selling newspapers. Ray liked to meet famous people that hung around Hollywood a lot, selling papers in LA, and he'd run into various movie stars. And then he'd always like to try to get pictures with them. Here's Ray at a typical meeting at a library. He used to go to lots of libraries and give talks. And this is very similar in the way it looked to the talk he may have given at the Palos Verdes Library back when we were hosting Ray Bradbury at the PV Library, because it was the best place to have him come to speak. And it looked just like that, because I was at some of those meetings and the kids would all sit on the floor in front of him, listening raptly. Oh, in Waukegan, Illinois, pardon me, I had the wrong state. Waukegan, Illinois. He was born in 1920. Oh, this was at the World's First Science Fiction Convention. It's actually the first one in the United States. And this is Ross Laughlin, Jack Williamson, who were well-known writers during the Golden Age. And at the bottom, 2 pictures of Forrest J. Ackerman in his youth, in his early days. He liked to do cosplay. He used to dress up at the conventions. This is Bradbury, Ray Harryhausen, and Forrest Ackerman again at some later event, probably a convention, or showing, it might be a showing of one of Ray Harryhausen's movies. Because Ray Harryhausen did several of Ray Bradbury's films with his animations, including the one about the dinosaur who fell in love with a lighthouse. Now, oh, this is a repeat. This is a very early May 1962 Southwest Manuscripters newsletter. So now you know what the newsletter looked like back then. It wasn't as fancy, but it had lots of information, quite a few pages, and by the 60s, had lots of, they had, in those days, they had over 100 people as members, and some out-of-state members too. Here's Harryhausen, Forrest Ackerman, and Bradbury playing See No Evil, Hear No Evil, Speak No Evil, or something like that. They were great counselors. This was probably at one of their birthday events at a bookstore, or maybe at a convention, judging by the couch. Okay, I have to blow this up. There's a reason I have this. This is a notice in 1948 of the San Pedro Writers Guild. I just want to prove to you that such a thing actually existed back then. And they wrote quite a few things. And a lot of writers came from them. And we may have inherited some of our writers from that particular writers group from San Pedro, as well as the Chaparral group, which may have also turned into that thing that Janice attends every year. They were a bunch of horsey people. Again, we're looking at a lossless meeting. And I'd hate to try to identify, but it looks like Ray Bradbury on the left in the back. Oh, now here's where it becomes very important. This early writers group that Ray Bradbury joined that eventually met at Clifton's would also meet at various people's homes. In this picture, you see Ray Bradbury on the right without his glasses, sitting to the left of the woman. who may be his wife, I'm not sure. Behind him on the couch, I believe that's Felicity Ackerman. I have not yet identified the other three men, but this may be Ray Bradbury's home in Venice that they met. But they would meet at various members of their little writers group, their homes, and they had a pretty good group, upwards of 20 or more members of the writers group at one time that met at Clifton's. There's another picture of the same group getting together. I believe it's Ray Bradbury's home. One of these days, I am going to identify these other people. With people like Lee Brackett, who went on to help write the Star Wars movie scripts, were part of the group. Tori Ackerman was part of the group. I believe a lot of the people who eventually went on to form Lossless were part of the group. Let's see. I'm at the end of my rope here. Now, okay, now I'm going to start something new. Here's where I get into let's see, how can I do it? How can I do this? No, I don't want that. No. Advanced. Okay. Oh, here we go. Now, no, not that. Not that. Uh-huh. Come on, you. Pardon me, my Wi-Fi is a little on the slow side. Ah. Here we go. Now. Okay. Now, I may have this problem from time to time. I want this to be a bigger screen. Okay. I want to show you first this, and I'll see if it will work. Oh, here we go. This is number one.
Hello, my name is David Ritter. The following is a...
Okay, now I have to minimize the other share, and then I have to maximize the share screen again. I don't know why it keeps doing this. I want to maximize this. Okay. Ah, come on, you stubborn thing. All right.
Hello, my name is David Ritter. The following is a production of First Fan...
All right. What this video is a little bit of information about the First Fandom. And it's a short video I urge your
Fandom
patience.
Experience, a collaborative publishing project that brings to life the origins and emergence of early science fiction fandom. First Fandom Experience presents The Earliest Bradbury, a unique collection of Ray Bradbury's earliest writings as a science fiction fan, published in honor of the centennial of his birth. Ray Bradbury may be the most revered of the science fiction grandmasters of the 20th century. Like iconic predecessors Jules Verne and H.G. Wells, his work has stood the test of time. A virtuoso composer with language, he sang the bodies electric and human. His stories have reached beyond the mainstream of science fiction, earning him recognition with the National Medal of Arts in 2004 and a Pulitzer Prize Special Citation in 2007. Most science fiction fans know the works of Ray Bradbury. What they may know less well is that Bradbury began his life in science fiction as a fan himself, actively immersed in the nascent community of fans in the late 1930s who would shape the genre for the next several decades. Bradbury fell in with Forrest J. Ackerman and the Los Angeles Science Fiction League in October 1937 at the age of 17. Just 4 months later, he published his first science fiction story in the January 1938 issue of the club's organ, Imagination. While Bradbury's life has been extensively documented, many of his first writings as a science fiction fan from the 1930s and early 1940s have never been republished since they first appeared in amateur fanzines of the day. In The Earliest Bradbury, readers will have a unique opportunity to experience Bradbury's first steps on his road to mastery. The book brings to life Bradbury's experiences as a teenager in Hollywood, California, where he would roller skate from his job selling newspapers on a street corner to Clifton's cafeteria for meetings of the Los Angeles Science Fiction League. Bradbury's works are presented in stunning, full-color images taken from the original fan publications in which they originally appeared. These early writings reveal Bradbury's youthful wit and allow the reader to trace his evolution as a writer, beginning in January 1938 with his first published science fiction story, Hallerbachen's Dilemma. These early writings also demonstrate a nascent descriptive style that presages the powerful lyric force of his later work. From Hallerbachen's Dilemma, January 1938. A queer noise was ringing in his ears. It grew in intensity by the second. His head felt fearfully large. His body Brobdingnagian. From Formula for a Successful SDF Story, April 1938. Have Earth fall to the moon. Have dinosaurs crawl over the hero's tummy. Let 'em wrestle a lion as the Earth cracks in 2 pieces. From Hallerbachen Comes Back, November 1938, written and illustrated by Ray Bradbury. Hurtling through the stratosphere somewhere, a tiny piece of matter bobbed up and down just this side of the Heaviside layer, where the rockets turn to the right and take the air lane to Jupiter, past the array of billboards hanging by skyhooks on the clouds. From Gold, August 1939. Then, with a final despairing laugh, something that was once a man dragged himself to the railing and fell down into the turgid blackness of the ocean. All was silent. From Luana the Living, June 1940. There was some grim thing that fettered this tree-bound terrain in soundless monotony. From Tale of the Mangeldambrich, February 1941. All of them were blurted out of sight by the ravenous creature inside the door, the sardonic, silk-clad tentacle, the ravenous, awful monster of fat legs, thin legs, breasts, lips, and torsos, of armpits and crotches and other nausea, of bargains and basements and pants half off. All of these Bradbury articles and stories, and many more, are reproduced in The Earliest Bradbury in full facsimile form, accompanied by rich historical narrative, Bradbury's first letters to professional pulp magazines, and accent art by Hannes Bach. Please visit firstfandomexperience.org to see samples of the earliest Bradbury and other First Fandom Experience publications.
Hi, Van. That was very good. Looks like the video is done.
You're not seeing this?
No, it's the First Fandom, the button on the screen.
Well, wait a minute.
But we just saw the video. The video was very good.
No, but you're not seeing the one I got now?
No.
You're not. Okay, let me stop the share and then start it again. The next thing is a very interesting video. I'm only going to show you part of it because it is a longer one. Okay. Okay. Oh. The trick is navigating around this nonsense. Oh, come on. It doesn't let me navigate. No, that's not it. Okay. I want to share this screen here. Do you see that now? No? Okay, let me click share screen again. Okay. How about now?
Yeah, it looks like it's starting. But it's I don't know if it might be frozen on the screen. Oh, there it goes.
I have no idea what this green thing is.
Well, that makes it sharper. See, so when you start a video, you have to click on a little icon, and then it makes it look better on the screen.
It does.
There should be not an icon. It's like two check boxes.
Huh? How do I get rid of the green thing?
I don't know. I don't see the green thing. There's Ray.
You don't see the rectangle?
No.
There's a rectangle on the screen.
Oh. Yeah, it's confusing because Zoom has the controls will disappear unless you click on them, and then now I see a rectangle on the screen.
Well, I moved it to the lower right. Get it out of the
Okay.
way.
Okay. Yeah, this looks like
A
like a
lot
super.
yeah, a lot of our people have not seen this film. I will
Yeah.
have a link to it on the website eventually.
Okay. Looks like a super close up of your screen right now.
When I was doing magic tricks for his little girls.
Van, we're not seeing the video at all. Is anyone seeing the video?
Dan says he sees it.
No, just a little strip in the middle of the screen.
Just the bottom part in the middle. We're not
Yeah.
seeing the whole video. We're just there.
Yeah, there, but
Now it's frozen.
yeah, there should be like a checkbox for optimize video something.
And is there any sound?
I have no idea what that thing is.
Yeah, I could see that sign that Bradbury had on the wall, which was "Don't think," because he didn't want to overthink his writing.
Yeah, but I'm confused as to why this green thing popped up. Let me stop the screen sharing again.
We didn't see any green thing. We saw the video, but it was intermittent and no sound.
Can you hear me? This is Doug.
Hi, Doug.
Yeah.
Hi. Hey, while you were looking through that, trying to get that straightened out, I just looked up something here in one of my Bradbury anthologies here, because you were talking about trees earlier. And this is the important month for trees. So I remembered a passage that Ray wrote about trees from the Martian Chronicles. And just really briefly, where it goes, there was a guy named Benjamin Driscoll who wanted to plant the trees on Mars because a tree could produce air, more air, growing larger with each season. Trees to cool the towns in the boiling summer. Trees to hold back the winter winds. There were so many things a tree
Wait a
could
minute,
do.
wait a minute, wait a minute. I'm trying
Add
to
color,
get.
provide shade, drop fruit, or become a children's
Okay, can you
playground.
see that
A
now?
whole universe to climb and hang from, an architecture of food and pleasure.
Let me interrupt.
wrapped
Can
in
you see
trees.
this now?
Sorry, Doug, that was sounding good.
Can you see it?
No.
No.
All we see is our videos.
No, I'm trying to get the share screen to show the video.
I have my Martian Chronicles.
I thought it was very poetic. He was more of a poet sometimes than a science fiction writer.
Oh,
Okay,
we
Van,
go.
now we can see your screen. There's nothing on it, but we at least can.
Yeah, but I'm trying to show the video.
it looks like maybe the beginning of it. I mean, it's a black. It's like the monolith in 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's a big black void. Oh, now it's going fast forward.
Year 2000.
Or
Now,
rewind.
can you see it?
We can see it.
11th year.
Yeah, we see it
8,000.
now.
Okay.
Yes.
How does an artist keep going during those early years of low income?
Just get a part-time job. Anything.
Yeah,
That's
part-time.
halfway decent. Usher in a theater. Unless you're a madman, you can't make do in the art fields. You've got to be inspired and mad and excited and love it more than anything else in the world. And to hell with the relatives, and if any girl doesn't like what you're doing, out of your life. And if any of your friends, male friends, make fun of you, to hell with them. Out. And then but you get rid of all the relatives at once, immediately. No more Thanksgiving dinners. But it has to be this kind of, I've got to do it. I've simply got to do it. And if you're not this excited, you can't win.
At the age of 17, Ray Bradbury set out to be a professional writer. Since then, he has published nearly 300 short stories and novels, which have been translated into 18 languages and earned him many important awards. In addition, his provocative magazine articles have made him internationally known as a perceptive and candid observer of our times.
Any world of 3 billion people weighted on hand, foot, ear, and eyeball by 50 billion robot devices is a science fiction world. And that's fine. I've always been in favor of a science that can prolong and beautify our lives. I believe in television, atomic power, and certainly computers. But when does an invention stop being a reasonable and worthwhile mechanism and start being a paranoically dangerous device? The problem of good and evil fascinates me as a writer. Our atomic knowledge destroys cancer or men. Our airplanes carry passengers or jellied gasoline bombs. The hairline, the human choice, is always there. A writer moves about, observing, seeing as much as he can, trying to guess how man will play the game, constantly measuring the way life is against the way he feels it ought to be. He's a magnet, passing through a factual world, taking from it what he needs.
Bradbury lived for many years here in Venice, an area of Los Angeles which he frequently revisits.
The time we have alone, the time we have in walking, the time we have in riding a bicycle is the most important time for a writer. Escaping from the typewriter is part of the creative process. You have to give the subconscious time to think. Real thinking always occurs on the subconscious level. I never consciously set out to write a certain story. The idea must originate somewhere deep within me and push itself out in its own time. Usually, it begins with associations. Electricity, the sea, Life started in the sea. Could the miracle occur again? Could life take hold in another environment, an electromechanical environment?
Hello? Hello? Who is this? Who is this? Is that you, Charlie? Oh, come on, come off it, will you? Who is this? Look, what number are you calling from? Hello? Look, what do you want? Look, will you tell me who you are?
Operator.
Hello, operator. I've had somebody calling me and bothering me on the phone. It must be some crazy person. Who should I call to...
You'll have to call your service representative, sir.
My service representative.
That's 118.
Okay, thank you. Hello? Hello? Dial 00, a story by Ray Bradbury. Out of a ride along a dusty road, out of observations, impressions, a lifetime of experience, a story has begun. In the world of Ray Bradbury, anything is possible, including within the vast complex of the telephone system, the spontaneous formation of intelligent life. A professional writer lives on what he produces. To help him sell, he often relies on a literary agent. Bradbury has two, one in New York and one in Hollywood.
A story sells itself, always, but not when it's sitting in the files. A writer needs an agent to go out into the marketplace and sell his wares. I never learned to drive. As a kid, I saw too many fatal accidents, and I grew up hating the idea. Our automobiles slaughter 40,000 people a year, maim 100,000 more, and bring out the worst in men. Any society where a natural man, the pedestrian, becomes the intruder, an unnatural man encased in a steel shell becomes his molester, is a science fiction nightmare.
Research is a necessary part of writing, even for fantasy. To gather background for Dial 00, Bradbury visits a long-distance telephone switching center.
As a writer, I've been called a mechanical moron, someone who knows no practical physics. And that's almost true. Yet I don't think anyone admires scientific technology more than I do. Here are thousands of people calling thousands of other people every minute, with banks of relays across the country singing to each other in musical codes and handling it all in microseconds. Mechanisms like this represent scientific man at his best. A story should be like a river, flowing and never stopping. Your readers passengers on a boat, whirling downstream through constantly refreshing and changing scenery. My readers must become the main character. In Dial 00, they must be Tom, confronted by a miracle, trying to understand. You're a tiny little creature, and in order to get back to you... I was afraid of the dark until I was almost 20. My only children's book, Switch on the Night, was written the week before my first daughter was born, so she wouldn't be afraid too. And she's not. None of my daughters are. In fact, I can never make my bedtime stories scary enough. The design of the moth, and maybe she'll see me standing up on the back of the moth and waving to her and shouting to her. So she started looking very close, and I was very hopeful, at which moment my father came into the house, slammed the door, scared the moth flew up and out the window. And I screamed and screamed, and we flew off into the night. And that's the end of the story for tonight.
Yeah.
And Phil,
I can tell the rest.
Can you tell the rest?
Yes.
What'll happen next?
You went in there and the witch went in to eat you. And that's the end.
Every other Friday for the past 14 years, Bradbury and a group of friends have met to read and criticize each other's work. Having completed his telephone story, Bradbury exposes it to their reaction.
Rather pitied, lost fool. He looked around at the apartment, guessing it might be the last time he would see it for many hours, days, or forever. Poor lost, poor sick, dumb, mad Tom. And Tom went out into the night, into the dark of the night, sure only that if he were sane, then the small gray box on the pole was his enemy. The damage to the wires had been repaired, the box had been shut. A tick-tick. The end. Now, can we have some reactions from any one of you?
I think the thing that intrigues me about the story is the process of life starting again. But I found it disturbing that this voice was malevolent. I don't think that the purpose or the overtone of the entire story should be malevolent.
Everyone will have something to say. Comments will range from the questioning of a single word to suggestions for major story revision. To Bradbury, the group's reaction is a necessary and sometimes painful prelude to sending a story out.
I always have Maggie go over everything I write, word by word. She taught English in college, and I rely on her to correct my grammar and catch any other errors I might have missed. It's always hard for me to decide when a manuscript's really ready to go out. Usually, if we can't change another word, that's when it's ready, not before.
For Bradbury, mailing dial 00 to his New York agent, who will offer it up for sale to leading magazines, is the last step of literary production.
I worry about rejection, but not too much. The real fear isn't rejection, but that there won't be enough time in your life to write all the stories you have in you. So every time I put a new one in the mail, I know I've beaten death again.
Though Ray Bradbury's formal education ended with high school, his stories appear today in 15 college textbooks, along with those of Soroyan, Faulkner, Steinbeck, Poe.
I'm a storyteller. That's all I've ever tried to be. I guess in ancient times I would have been somewhere in the marketplace, alongside the magician, delighting the people. I'd rather delight and entertain than anything else. We live in a time of paradox. Man is confronted with a terrifying, magnificent choice. Destroy himself utterly with the atom, or survive utterly with the same means. Man has always been half monster, half dreamer. The very real fear is that now he'll destroy himself just as he's about to attain his dreams. Today we stand on the rim of space. Man is about to flow outward, to spread his seed to far new worlds, if he can conquer the seed of his own self-destruction. But man at his best is immortal, and from his beginnings, he has dreamed of reaching the stars. I'm convinced he will.
Don't applaud me.
Yay.
I stopped it and I fast forwarded through it at points. Pardon me. Because it was a long video. I think it'd be a good time right now to start and stop to unmute everybody, or well, unmute Alan anyway. And I think what I'll do is I'll unmute Alan because Alan wants to give us a talk, a poem. I'm going to mute everybody but Alan. Let's see now if I can just get, oh, there it is. Okay, Alan, you're up.
Okay, thank you. I have just a short bit here. In September of 1995, the Palos Verdes Library had a grand reopening after doing serious remodeling. And one of the speakers was Ray. And let's see, here's a picture of Ray and of course Bernadette, with whom he loved, and me, and a plaque that he was given, and he gave a speech. Before the speech, I read a poem that I had written for him, and at the end of the reading, I gave him a copy, and he said, "Can I show this to my wife?" And I gave him permission to do that. So I will now read the poem after changing glasses here. And the poem is, of course, about Ray. From a wandering planet of a far-off star, a Santa with a bubbling sack of ideas came, dropping them near, hurling them far, armed with prolific typewriter and pencil, telling the universal stories, prodding and pushing us up to the heavens, exploding with passion and allegories, a meteor streaking, racing, flashing, lighting up the infinite skies, preaching that the lantern of wisdom isn't reserved for only the wise, setting the stakes with his Toynbee convector, designing the future, drawing the chart, challenging us to believe in ourselves, doing it all from the depths of his heart. Thank you.
Good job. Thank you, Alan.
Fabulous.
Wow. I can see why he would have been impressed by that. Absolutely. And to share it with his wife sounds like the ultimate seal of approval. Or no, that's great.
I guess he thought it was complimentary.
Yes. I was inspired to write a poem, and I'm not a poet. Most of you have heard this at one of his gatherings there at the Torrance Community Center, and I sent it to him, and he complimented, sent me back, sent me a book of his dinosaur book. Inscribed, enjoyed the poem, Ray. It actually was published in the newsletter, our newsletter. Van published it and attached a little icon of a little image of a dinosaur. So where are we, Van? We've got about 15 minutes before.
Well, the thing is, I have more videos I want to share, but I'm not going to share all of them because there are too many of them. But there's a couple I think that are very important.
Well, I say we continue this next time, and I want to see a raise of hands right now of those who are here. How many would rather we cancel our in-person, which the library may do anyway in next month, and just go Zoom? Is that, everyone raise their hand if that's what you would like?
Well, to begin with, I'm in favor of having it all.
Well, at this point, Van, should we go ahead and stop the recording?
No,
And-
no, because I'm
okay.
going to go right back to video. But let me explain.
Okay.
A lot of these videos, I am going to make available online on a website so you can jump to them and watch them on your own time. I'm just giving you a sample of what's available. There's a lot, believe me, an enormous amount of material. But I did have a couple that I thought were most important to share. And so I'm going to share only a couple more of the short ones that I think are important in this case. So I'm going to go ahead right now and go back to the videos. If I can get this stupid share screen thing to work right. This is one that is very interesting. Okay, now let's see. I'm going to stop it for a second. Okay, now back to my share screen. And come on. Oh, here it is. Share. Let's see if I can find the right one. It doesn't give me a. Oh, here it is. Now what? Now, what does that mean? Unsupported format. What the hell? Now, are you seeing that?
No,
Not.
no.
The emperor has no clothes.
But we're seeing you now, Dan.
We're
but-
seeing the invisible outfit.
Well, no, wait a minute.
Maybe Zoom wants more money from you. There could be like a computer intelligence that created in Zoom that will take
All right.
control.
Van, does your account have a time limit? Because, oh, no. Well,
No.
It started.
Okay, we started to
No,
see something.
wait a minute. I'm trying to figure this out now.
Giving you an error message.
Can you
probably.
see that?
Nope.
No. I can see all these lovely people. Hi.
What?
Wait a minute. You can't see it?
No, we just see you now. Do we just see the speaker view? You.
Well, why can't I get this to share?
Huh.
It started to.
Yeah, it always starts for about a second. You didn't use the secret magic spell.
Well, why doesn't it share my screen?
You have to talk to Ray.
Yes, this is boy, this is where we need him.
Generous.
Okay, let me try it again. I'm trying to get this thing to cooperate, and it's not cooperating very well.
You did 90% cooperation already.
They want you to talk nice to it.
Oh, wait a minute. Well, if you're all going to talk, then it's going to interrupt.
Yes.
Let me go back to this. Let me try it again. Okay.
Visiting with Huell Hauser is made possible through a generous grant from the Ralph M. Parsons Foundation.
Well, hello everybody, I'm Huell Hauser, and here we are in downtown Los Angeles, right on Broadway. Now there's nothing quite as exciting as coming downtown and walking up and down Broadway. There's always a lot of energy here, a lot of excitement here. This is the heart of downtown LA. Of course, over the years, Broadway has changed. The demographics have changed. Right now, here on the corner of 7th and Broadway, we're right in the heart of the Jewelry District. And speaking of the Jewelry District, there is no finer jewel in downtown Los Angeles than right here, Clifton's Cafeteria, which has been here since 1935. And if anybody knows the story of Clifton's Cafeteria, it's the Clinton family who have been, well, you are Clifton's, even though your name is Clinton. That's a whole nother story.
That's another whole
Don,
story.
welcome. Your son, Robert.
Welcome, Huell.
And your sister, Jean.
I'm going to speed this up a
Orange
minute.
Groves, Missions, and the beach.
Well, Dad had fallen in love with Brookdale Lodge in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and you'll see a picture indoors, and it inspired him to replicate that in downtown Los Angeles as a memory.
Okay, now we're going to try it again with a different video. I don't know why this thing doesn't do things right. I click on it and it sometimes works and doesn't.
People come to my stories knowing that I'm one of the world's greatest lovers. I love movies, I love stage, I love libraries and shows in my work. And so people come to me to learn how to love. And that way you influence people. They don't know they're being influenced, but they are. And they go away from me better people because they hold out their hands and their souls are in the hands waiting to be warmed. And if they pick up a story of mine, my story warms their hand and they put it to their heart and go away changed. I've written many stories about older people. When I wrote Dandelion Wine 50 years ago, I wrote about older people and their relationship with younger people. And in recent years, I wrote a sequel to Dandelion Wine, which is a conversation between a 13-year-old boy, myself, and the 87-year-old man, myself now. So the two Bradburys are in that book. the young one and the old one. So the old person is there and the young person is there, and they are like Grant and Lee at Appomattox. They got to make peace with each other, and they have to have an exchange of ideas. So the young boy accepts the old man accepts the boy. And so my latest novel is about myself at this age, accepting myself when I was 13. It's a great thing.
Well, now, how do I do this?
Thank you, Van. I didn't know there was a sequel to Dandelion Wine. Good to know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I stopped it there because even though I have more videos and it doesn't seem to want to share, the sharing doesn't seem to work. Is everybody unmuted yet?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It it doesn't seem to want to work. I have no idea why. Okay. The sharing on this thing is so very sticky and very weird. But this is why I'm going to make all of these videos and a lot more that I have available to links that you can link them to on a web page. When I changed web hosts, I lost the Bradbury page, but it didn't have much on it. I'm going to expand the Bradbury page with all these links to all these things and all these visitors. And then I'm going to institute a history page that's going to have links to all these newspapers and articles about our history. For one thing, for example, Bradbury did not come to our first meeting. He was not our first speaker, as it has been said in the past. He actually came to, he was scheduled to come and talk in 1951. But for some reason, and I don't know why yet, I'm still researching it, he didn't come until the following year. But he also came again in 1954 and brought several people with him. Now, here's the thing that's very important. The reason I brought up Clifton's, and the reason I brought up Los Angeles Science Fantasy Society and those early fans, when he used to meet at Clifton's, along with him, besides Forey Ackerman, with people like Mark Clifton and Frank Riley, probably Harryhausen, a lot, and Beaumont, maybe even Ron Serling. I don't know if Jack Webb ever went to any of their meetings, but this is where Mark Clifton, who was an early member, who was a science fiction writer of already some some knowledge, some
Credibility.
some fame, who used to write along with a fellow named Frank Riley. Mark Clifton was not only a member of that inner group that used to go to Clifton's and talk in that room, in the brown room, which I was trying to show you a video of. But he was also an early member, an officer, and I think a president for some time of the Manuscripters. And I like to think, and I'm fairly certain, that a lot of those early writers, and especially the science fiction writers, like Rod Serling, like Beaumont, like Bradbury, all of those early writers that came to our meetings in the early days were because of the connection that Mark Clifton had to them. Because he had very strong connection with LA Fandom and LA fiction, science fiction, and fantasy writers through that group that used to meet at Clifton's. They didn't always meet at Clifton's, and sometimes they would meet at various homes. And the LA Manuscripters, which was beginning to start up in the late 30s, the Los Angeles Manuscripters, of which we sprang from, like from Pompey's Head, you know, we're a daughter group of, also used to meet at people's homes. And I have not been able to identify all the locations yet that they used to meet at. But the reason I showed you a picture of, and I like to show it to you, of Clark Stadium in Hermosa Beach, is because for a long time, that was one of our major meeting halls. We didn't always meet there. Sometimes we met at a federal bank building. Sometimes we met in a library. But for a long time, we met at Clark Stadium in Hermosa. And I think that Clark Stadium would be an ideal place to hold a future meeting. And that simulated future meeting was the picture I put in the email I sent all of you.
Oh.
That was a simulated meeting. That's what it would look like if we ever met there again. And I'm going to make sure I put all of that information in the history section when I get that up and running too, because all of this history is so important to us. It's important to our founding, and it's important to our future. It's important to our understanding. Also, in the roster that I set out, and the future roster that I'll be sending out, at the bottom, I list missing members. And if anybody has any information on how to contact anybody or contact the families or know what happened to any of those missing members, please let us know, because it's part of our history too. Oh, I'm trying to think of the names. I can't off the top of my head, but I won't ramble on about it, but I will make mention of it in future mailings and on the website. So I am now going to release, and I'm going to, as Jerry says, turn off the recording so that she can, let's see if I can find the button. Button. I don't know where the button is. I don't see it here. Look at that. It's gone. The button is gone.
You're permanent.